Happy 420, everybody! My name is John, and on a special edition of To Be Blunt, I'm going to be teaching you how to make 100 milligram medicated microwave burritos. Now, let's be real. I got a couple packs of frozen microwave burritos in my freezer. I'm pretty sure you guys, some of you have them too. If you smoke weed, they're great. They're cheap, they're quick. A minute and 30 seconds is not too long to wait for munchies. Alright, sometimes it is. It really sometimes seems like it. But still. These are going to give you the fucking munchies. A couple words of note. I'm making bean and beef. You don't have to do that. You can make whatever you want. Chicken and rice? Go for it. Breakfast burritos? Cool. Doesn't matter. If you're going to use rice, make sure you make your rice, you overcook it so it's a little too soft. Otherwise, when it freezes and then reheats, it's going to be like little bullets. Anyway, so a couple things to note besides that. The additive I'm using today is a concentrate that is pre-activated, so I don't have to do anything to it. If your concentrate does not come pre-activated, or if you do not vape your flour, you are going to have to decarb your concentrate or your flour. If you're using flour, some people at this point, once they decarb it, they'll throw in some oil or some butter and they'll, steep it and all that. Realistically, I'm going to say don't do that if you're going to make a burrito with it, because then you have to figure out how to incorporate that fat into your burrito. I'm using a cheese sauce here, so that's going to help convey carry my concentrate through. If you're using concentrate, that's probably the best place to put it in. If you are using, flour, I would probably get either a cheap coffee grinder or, something and pulse the hell out of that till it's a fine powder. I'd take my meat mixture off the heat. You'll see where that comes up. And I'd wait for it to cool down a bit. And just when it's getting about, room temperature a little more, that's when I'd mix in that powder of decarbed flour. You don't want to mix it in too high because the heat can destroy, the good stuff. And, it's probably the best place for it. Otherwise, it's not really going to go with the cheese sauce, and it sounds weird, but trust me, it'll make the sauce feel grainy, and oddly enough, that's a texture you'll be able to feel. Now, I'm going with a jarred cheese sauce instead of making a sauce for a couple reasons. One, not everyone has the technical, kitchen skills that are needed to make a cheese sauce. Totally cool. And two, come on, man, we're stoners. Who doesn't have some cheese sauce, some salsa con queso in a jar that they're going to dip some chips in? So it's really easy. Beyond the medication dose, you're going to have leftovers. You can make more of these, and that way when you're already toasty, you have something to munch on. Whatever. But make sure you keep it separate. If you're going to add more cheese, make sure you keep that separate and don't mix things up. Mark everything, trust me. On that, I'm going to go ahead and hit this pre-98 Bubba Kush that I picked up from my local dispensary, Sweet Relief. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the 420 festivities by rolling on in the kitchen. I do ask that you forgive the angles. Tripods and such are a little hard to set up when you're in a wheelchair, so, Evidently, it's hard to light a bone when you're in a wheelchair. Alright, let's go get cooking. Okay, let's take a look at those ingredients. First off, we've got our flour tortillas. Don't use anything but flour. Don't use spelt, whole wheat, corn, none of it. Flour tortillas are the only ones that will not break. Make sure that your tortillas are burrito size or bigger. Then we've got our protein. I am using ground beef. You don't have to. You can use chicken, you can use steak, you can use, tofu. It doesn't matter. Just get some kind of protein. Behind my protein, I got my spices. Again, you don't have to use these spices. You can use a packet of, taco seasoning, burrito seasoning. It doesn't matter. They're all the same thing. Chili, fajita. Yeah, it's all basically the same shit. In this case, I'm using this for a couple reasons. One, this is honestly a flavor profile I know pretty well. And two, if you'll notice, there's no salt in there. I'll get to that in a minute, but instead what I'm using is coriander powder, cumin powder, onion powder, chili powder, and garlic powder. Next to that, I've got my concentrate that's already been activated. It comes activated. That's a Select Strains Dabbable. There's Obama Kush, and it is coming in at 809 milligrams of THC. That works out roughly to 81% THC for that gram. Next to that, I've got my refried beans. I'm using the restaurant style because it says it's smooth, so hopefully that means it should incorporate a little easier into the final product. Now finally, I've got the cheese sauce there, that jar of cheese, salsa con queso. Now that is going to be salty enough for me personally that it should, take care of salt for the entire burrito. The sauce I'm also using as a vehicle for that, the concentrate, so that it will carry the fat of that cheese sauce will be able to carry that concentrate into the rest of the dish. Let's move on to hardware now. The first thing you're going to need is something to cook in. I'm using a frying pan. Use whatever. Now, I'm also going to use some water there. That's because I like the texture of my meat to be a finely ground texture. So if you like your ground meat to have that like super fine texture, you're going to need like a cup and a half of water. Otherwise, don't worry about that. You're going to need something to mix in and with. I'm using glass and metal because that's what I had. Silicone would work awesome if you've got like a silicone spatula. Doesn't matter. Just try and keep it non-porous. Plastic wrap or aluminum foil to wrap your burritos up in, and finally a tablespoon to measure with. Okay, now if you're using a ground meat, make sure you bring the temperature of the pan up to a medium-high heat. Then go ahead and add the ground meat in, and after that, go ahead and add in your cup and a half of water if you want that fine round texture. If you want a chunkier texture, don't worry about adding the water. And if you're not using ground meat, the water's kind of not necessary as well. At this point, we're going to go ahead and just break that up. And what will happen is, as you continue to break up the meat, it's just going to get smaller and smaller, and it's going to mix with that water and form kind of like a slurry. Now, once that water evaporates out, you're just going to be left with a very fine ground meat. Okay, now, tablespoon, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm going to save this one for the cheese sauce, and I'm going to use this one for my spices. We're going to start with some garlic powder. Alright, and I like garlic powder, so we're just going to put 2 tablespoons in there. Should be enough. And after the garlic powder, we're going to go ahead and go to the onion powder. And this is empty, so whatever, a little bit. Alright, whatever. I normally put in at least a tablespoon, but moving on. Cumin. Ground cumin. Just 2 shakes of that. 2 shakes. 2. Next one is coriander. If you do not like cilantro, do not put this in. 1 shake. Yeah, coriander and cilantro, same thing. Alright, and then we're going to move on to chili powder. And we're just going to pour it into the spoon because the spoon doesn't fit in the jar. Oh well, doesn't matter. That's roughly 3 tablespoons. Should be good. Alright, and we're just going to go ahead and mix this on in. Alright, we're going to bring this up to a high flame. And what we want to do is we want to get this boiling. We'll just bring it up to a boil. And we see we're still chopping up the meat a little bit, getting it finer and finer as we go. Now, if you're not using the seasoning blend that I'm using, if you're using a taco seasoning packet or something, go ahead and follow directions on that instead. It's all going to get you to the same place. So as you can see, we've got some boiling going on here. Now, at this point, what I recommend you doing is go ahead and turn it down to a simmer and let it just kind of simmer for a good 15-20 minutes. Let that boil off until you know, nothing. But if you don't mind keeping a watchful eye on it, you can keep this at a full boil. Just be careful because it can get tough very quickly if you leave it on a full boil. Yeah, that's really the only thing that's going on here. Alright, so at this point the liquid has reduced by roughly half. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my refried beans. Or try to add in my refried beans. It's going to work, I swear. There we go. Look at that lovely, lovely, smooth recipe. Alright, so as unappetizing as this looks right now, it's going to look better once it's actually in a burrito. You're just going to mash this up, mix it all in. It's going to continue to evaporate a little bit as you mix this in. It's basically just going to make everything kind of smooth and creamy and bind it all together. That's all you're looking for here. Okay, now to make our medicated cheese sauce, we are going to take 8 tablespoons of this jarred cheese sauce here, put them into this bowl. Then we're going to take this bowl, and Chef Mike is going to give us a hand here by cooking this for about 20 seconds. Now you don't want to get this too hot because that can destroy the THC. What we're looking for is just a little bit of, you know, meltiness so that it kind of stirs a little easier. And at this point, we're going to take our select strains of dabbable. Ooh, ah, pretty. And it does say do not eat on this, but that just means straight up because if you look, it's 809 milligrams of THC. Yeah, you don't want to just take that straight in, but it is activated, so it can be used in edibles like this. So we're just going to take this little glass syringe out, and we'll take the little stopper off, and then we're just going to dump the full gram into there, and that should give us about 100 milligrams of burrito if we're putting 1 tablespoon of this sauce in each burrito. At this point, let's set that aside, and I'll go ahead and incorporate this. Now when you're stirring this, make sure you scrape down the sides as well. It's, you know, you just want to make sure that you're not going to waste anything. This is also why it would be better to have a silicone spatula, because you could scrape the sides of the bowl a lot easier than with something like a fork or a spoon. And that's about it. Now that's ready to incorporate into our burritos. Alright, let me start off by apologizing. I thought that I'd been recording this as I was doing this. Unfortunately, I missed out. It just didn't record. So what you're going to want to do is put down your plastic wrap or your foil first, and then you're going to want to take 3 tablespoons of your mix, your filling mixture, and put it down on your tortilla, kind of right there in the center, right where that is. I'm actually out of mixture because I just kept making burritos. So let's just pretend that I've put 3 tablespoons of my mix there. And then it's not medicated this time, but I'll go ahead and put my tablespoon of cheese there. Now, there are 2 ways I feel to fold a burrito, the right way and the wrong way. And today we will be using the wrong way. So first thing you're going to want to do is take these corners and kind of fold them up into like a V shape. And then just kind of gently smush down. About like that. And you're going to take that top part and you use that to kind of drag back any filling. Just kind of gently, just drag back. Just like that. And what's going to happen is these may curl up a little bit, and that's fine. Like this. That's fine. That's going to fold over like that. And that's actually going to help lock in more of your filling. And you can just kind of roll it up like that. And your real ones are going to look much nicer. They're probably going to look something more like that. And then, see, this is how you really fold a burrito, in my opinion. You fold the bottom up and then the sides. It keeps things locked in better. So once you've got that, you're going to take these and you're going to put them into a gallon Ziploc bag and put that in the freezer. Alright, so after you've made your 8 burritos, you probably have leftovers. I know I did. So I usually just keep making burritos, honestly. I'll keep making them and then I'll make sure I'll separate those from the medicated ones. That way, once I have one, if I have a craving for another burrito but I don't want to get more high, got an option. Microwaving, throw these into a larger, like a gallon size Ziploc or something like that, something airtight, throw them in the freezer. When you're ready, grab one out, take the plastic or the foil or whatever you wrapped them up in, take that off. Put on a plate, 45 seconds aside usually is what I do, and they come out pretty decent. How they taste, you can taste the weed, but it's not killer. It just tastes like a decent burrito. Obviously, these are bean and beef. You can go with anything. Breakfast burritos, make yourself some eggs and sausage or bacon or something. Do it veggie style, rice and beans. Personally, if I'm making the rice, I will use vegetable stock or chicken stock instead of water. And then I'll oversaturate the rice. I'll add maybe a quarter to a half cup more, depending on where I am, elevation and humidity and all that. If it's damp, you don't need that much. But basically, you make your rice a little more mushy. And it seems to me, at least, I like that texture better after the freeze and the reheat. But yeah, that is medicated microwave burritos. So happy 420, everybody. Take care.